Hello, 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 hello. Today is December the 13th, 2022. Trading and investing of any kind carries risk. Everything discussed here is for entertainment purposes only and not to be taken as financial advice. Because I don't give advice. Except when I do give advice. But that's not today. So, wow. I mean, was that not a thing of beauty today? Was that not beautiful? I mean, got nailed that pattern. Then this bigger pattern got taken out as well. So that is fun. I am glad to see that those three things panned out today. I mean, and basically today was it was a big pop in an all-day fader, like just an all-day short. And at the very end, everything kind of just, everybody, kind of covered on the way down and then covered at the end of the day. So, at a, from a bigger level, let's look at this. So what happened? What's very interesting because we popped. So this is a 4-hour chart. It's pretty far out, right? Pretty open look. So we popped. We pulled all the way back under what we were thinking might be, some head and shoulders looking something or another's, right? So it's very interesting that that's where we came back below. We found support right here at this midpoint from yesterday. From not this. Well, I guess it is kind of the midpoint. We found support last night. So let's back up a little bit. We found this support last night, right? We pushed up. We got just above this. If I recall, it was at the end. It was at the close of the day yesterday. We pushed above this and we started finding, some support in here. And then in, early morning pre-market, we had this push in anticipation for what would be good news, right? For the CPI report. The CPI report was it was actually, if I recall correctly, it was below, but it was only a tiny bit below. So I'm assuming it was just priced in. And so what happened? Pop. Everybody thought that the market was about to go bullish. And this is just from what I saw, right? I mean, everybody went for it. And it got sold into very hard, right? Everything got sold into that was up there. And then it just pulled back. And it got back below the level of this shoulder. Which is very interesting that that's where we currently sit for a lot of reasons. Firstly, whatever. A first reason would be, so I have a lot of junk on my chart, so just get over it. So we have this is that big trend line that everybody's been talking about. And I've talked about it too. And I'd mentioned if we go through that, for us to stay above it, we've got to go through with force. Like we've got to get through there, got to find some support. We've got to find a way to stay above it. We plowed through it with that CPI report, but we did not find support up there. We did not find really good support at all, honestly. We're doing well where we are now, but it's very interesting how hard that popped and how hard it sold off. So, which has made me think about a few things and maybe, I don't say change my mind. It's definitely making me a bit more cautious on some things I was thinking about before. So I was really thinking, as far as we popped through there today, we should have found support up here. We really should have found support right in here, or on this, on the north side of this trend line, right? This bigger trend line. If we were really looking for a market to turn bullish, that in my head, that's kind of what I would have been looking for. So it was just very interesting to me. So we pulled back through this major trend line that we'd popped through, and just, here's the other trend line that's very interesting to me that we pulled back through. And it's this one here. So it is this trend line. I'm going to change the color of it. Let's call it No, that's purple. I don't know how well you can see that. Maybe this pinkish red color. That works. Okay. So this trend line right here, we pulled through several days back. Let's look at what day we pulled through it. That would be Tuesday, December the 6th. Yeah, so maybe last Tuesday, something like that. So what trend line is that? That is the trend line that has kept us in this rally, right? So this is the trend line that has kept us in this rally. We pulled through it on Tuesday. You know, we tried to get back up there and retest it on Friday. Couldn't. And so we pulled back down. You know, again, we found some support as we pulled back down. We didn't pull back down to lows, but here we are, right? We pushed, we completed a pattern, and we've now retraced back down. But we have pulled back through this trend line as well. So we are below this trend line that really keeps us in that bear market rally. Now we're testing it still and we're close to it, but I'm just not liking what I'm seeing here. Or am I? Maybe I am liking what I'm seeing. Anyway, so it's really making me think a lot more bearish. Now, I mean, as I mentioned before, even if we had this pump and we happen to pump to like the 440s or whatever, I never expect the market to stay up there to begin with. But the way that we pulled back on this pop today, and it really makes me think that everything that's said tomorrow is priced in. So in this area, let me see here. And this video is probably going to be a little bit longer because I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff today. So bear with me or don't, your choice. So where is my little, let's just do this. So in this area, let's just call it right in here. I think down to like this area maybe, give or take. So in this area, since around the 10th or 11th of November, we have had accumulation in this area of roughly 270 million shares. Now, some of them could have been selling from this pop before, so let's just say that half were selling. I don't think that's the case, but let's just say that for the sake of discussion, that's still 135, 6, 7, anyway, 135,000-ish, 135 million-ish shares that have possibly been accumulated in here. Now, that's just in this range. That doesn't count here and some of the outliers in these areas, right? So that's an insane amount of shares. That's like trillions, hundreds of trillions of dollars, isn't it? That's a lot. Either way, it's a lot. And we have still, even on this pop today, that pop tested a lot of things. And what it really showed is it doesn't seem to want to go up there. So these two trend lines, as I'd mentioned, right? So this trend line. Now, something else that's really kind of started to show up a bit is every time we pop, we're starting to develop a bit of like a broadening type of pattern. So we are pushing higher and pushing higher, and we get this broadening. The interesting thing is we're not really testing the bottom, the deeper sides of this broadening, if we were to call it a broadening pattern, for instance. And these lines here, I just like to draw because, they kind of hit different points, right? One of them hits the wick. One of them actually hits the real body of this previous candle, just in case stopping points and all that. I mean, I could make this chart much uglier, right? I mean, I have lots of junk I could throw on here that I tend to just keep hidden away a bit and just have them pop up as I go. So, we draw this line here. We didn't quite hit it today, but if you draw it from the actual bodies of the candles, we definitely did. We plowed into it and then turned around and came back down. And again, we completed a pattern up there, a couple patterns up here, Like it's just been very interesting. So then we pulled back down, and now we're creating, what looks to be, I mean, if you were to ignore this big wick on this bigger chart, it really looks like this Head and Shoulders is just now magically back in play. So is that the case? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or not. But just based on the way today went, I'm definitely going to pay attention, for bearish activity. That's for sure. Because if you think about the amount of shares that have possibly been accumulated here, and you look at how far, let's say we do move up. So we moved, we popped to 415-ish today, give or take, just over 414. I'm not going to dig in and figure it out exactly. So, and I mean, it got hella sold into. I mean, just completely sold into. So let's say we do push beyond there, right? We actually, form this move and we push up into the 430s and 440s. Now that gives us a lot. It definitely gives us a lot to push and then sell and then pull the market back down. But we're going to have to get up there and we're going to have to accumulate, right? They're not going to take, I say they, but the market is not going to push way up there, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and we'll find out probably tomorrow. But I just don't see the market pushing that high and having the time to accumulate before we pull. And I'm taking a lot of factors into account. So we had this report come out, and I really just think that the people in power, let's say, are just pumping, just holding the market up by a thread. And I think that because after this CPI report came out, Biden spoke, and he spoke about basically how, basically trying to prop the economy up, like things are turning around, things are looking great. But where he happened to make a mistake is he was walking away, as he probably should have, and somebody asked him a question about when he saw prices coming back to normal, end of 2023. Okay. I mean, there's just a lot of things being said that really don't make me think that this market is going to push a lot higher. Now, and I want to be very clear here, just because I'm saying this, I'm not going to short the market right now. I'm going to watch what happens tonight. I'm going to watch what happens in the morning when I get up and start preparing. And then I'll get my bias formulated, kind of figure out what I want to do, but I will change it if it starts to go against me, right? I will flip it, no problemo. And so I just want to make that very clear. Like, what I'm saying is, it's just thoughts to take into account. I'm not telling you to do anything. And I would never do that because, I don't give advice. So, yeah, there are just so many things right now that are just really making me a bit more bearish. So let's see here if there's anything else I wanted to talk through here. So we got this whole idea of broadening. Let's say that the market does pull, and I've talked about this before. Where are we going to pull back to? Well, if we're going to have a serious pullback, we're going to actually have where the market retraces, I would really like to see a couple of things happen. So if you look at this here, we're looking at, this retraced to 1.272. Let's see what we did here. This retraced to almost 127. Okay, so there's that. So if we were to actually measure that out, say we got that wick there, and we wanted to pull back there, so we would be looking at, from this standpoint, we would be looking at the 329 to 330. Now, is that going to happen overnight? No, that won't happen overnight. There's another way I've been looking at this as well, which has been more of this, this COVID, right? Yeah, this COVID pullback we had here. So if we retrace this COVID pullback, a normal retrace would be roughly in this area. So, so what I would be looking for over time is going to be at least 330 to 320 on the downside. Now, what I was really hoping for, and this may still happen, so now that I've thrown that out there, what What I was really hoping for was this, a pullback today with the CPI report, to down here somewhere maybe, or maybe last night in the morning a pullback. But we had these patterns that we're going to complete. So, it's what it is. But I was kind of looking for a bit of a pullback, maybe pop through here, find some support in here, and then turn around and kind of push maybe tomorrow. And then get up there, complete those patterns, find support up there, do all the things that you need to do to continue a push up to the 440s or so. Where is this it right here? Yeah, where this pattern kind of finishes itself off. And I'm not saying it's impossible to do that still, but just based on what happened today, I don't see it as likely. But we'll see. I mean, maybe what happens tomorrow gives us a bit more of a pullback, find some buyers and turn around and go through the end of the year. And we get that, the whole idea of a Santa Claus rally. Man, I'm just, the more I'm looking at this, I'm kind of leaning to the other side that, we might not get the rally that we think we're looking for. I mean, if you think about this, on the weekends, especially around Christmas time, right now it's Christmas time, so there's a mall not far from here, right? Go to the stores. There are people at malls, not near as many as normally would be there, at least in my experience. If you go in stores like Staples and places like that, there's just never anybody in there. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that the economy of these brick and mortars is doing well. I know that online sales are doing well, but yeah, I don't know. It's just hard for me to believe it. And so all of these things kind of taken into account are kind of what's leading me to where I am right now. So, all right, with that being, out of my mouth now, I will, let's see, maybe dig into the day a little bit. Oop, nope, there. Nope. See. Well, let's just use this chart. Why not? It's messy enough. Okay. These guys off, and let's do a little bit of zooming in, and let's jump down to a 5-minute chart. So, yeah, yesterday, around the close. Yeah, so before the end yesterday, we found support right here before, the SPY kind of, shut down for the night. We had this little gap up in the morning, and then, we started getting this move up. And then the CPI report, for me, it comes out early. So I'm on the Pacific Coast, so it comes out at 5:30 in the morning. And, we just had this rip. But when it got to a lot of the places where it was finding it difficult to get through, it just stopped, got sold into, and it turned around. I mean, so we pulled back, we pushed, and we tried, and we tried, and we tried, and we just couldn't, right? So it started to sell off. And if you look at that, I mean, it's a pretty significant trend down. It's not like it was, yeah, I mean, it was, I say significant. It's pretty standard, I guess. It's a pretty standard trending day outside of this pop. So anyway, yeah, I mean, the trend was down. So if you traded this, and a lot of times people won't trade these. I traded it at the top. I shorted it at the top because when I started seeing what was going on, I realized it wasn't going to go any further. And we completed those patterns at the same time. So when we completed both of those patterns up there, I was pretty certain we were going to pull back. Now, I didn't realize, be completely honest, we were going to pull back as far as we did today. And so, I didn't short it all the way back down. I only shorted it about halfway. So, yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting play today. So we'll have to see what happens tonight and tomorrow. A lot of times I like to kind of dig into these and talk about trading them and how to trade them and all of that fun stuff. But, this is one of those particular days where, you draw a trend line you see a pattern, it hits the trend line. Actually, this is what formed the trend line, so don't listen to that advice. That was terrible. Let's see if we started here, if it would be the same. Oh, I guess it would be very similar, right? So, okay, never mind, listen to me again. So let's just knock that one out of it. Why not? So you get a pattern here. I'm guessing that's let's see, 50. That looks like about 50, maybe 61, but I don't think it's 61. Oh no, yep, it is 61. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we pull back to a nice retrace area, and then dumped back down, right? And then, I mean, that's really it slammed into this trend line, and you can look like when you draw these trend lines, you'll start to see what's this? This is a 1 minute. Yeah, you'll start to see like we get into this trend line and we start getting these wicks that try to get through it. We can't, and we pull. And just to be clear, when you're trading this kind of stuff, you don't, I mean, nobody 100% knows where something is going to go. It's just stats and probability based upon how things tend to work out. So the whole idea here is like you see something setting up, and then you take your trade based upon what your setup is that you see. And then if it goes against you, you have a stop loss in place that cuts that trade, right? That's the whole idea here. So on days like today, so I tend to, on big trending days like today, I tend to struggle a bit. And so as I tend to struggle on some of the days like today, it's not that I struggle to trade, it's that I struggle to stay in the trade all the way down to the bottom. And I like to scale in and out of trades and all that, but days like today, I tend to have issues doing that because it's just you have this big pop, and there's a lot of potential volatility at stake, right? So anyway, you have this pull, you get into this trend line here, and then you start getting the wicks, and then you take the trade in whichever direction you think it's going to go. So one of the worst things you can do, at least in my personal opinion, is when you see it get to this trend line, when you've had a big pop like this, you see it get to this trend line here, and you start looking at volume and all this, like it looks like it could possibly get through this trend line. But if you look at this little candle and this big volume candle, like it starts to kind of tell you a bit of a story. There's some, this is getting sold into a bit. So a lot of times what you'll find people do is they'll get to these trend lines, and in their head, they start to see these candles and they say, oh, it's going to go. And then they buy it right here at the top, and then it pulls. And then you have to get out of that trade. And so one of the things that you really have to stop doing is, if you're doing it, is that kind of trade, right? Which you really need to be thinking about, okay, we're pulling down. We have this thing that's setting up here. The idea in your head should not be, oh, it's going to pop through that trend line. The idea should be it's going to actually stop here and it's going to continue downward, right? Now, I haven't gone back and looked at, while I'm telling you this, I haven't gone back and looked at any indicators to kind of see what these indicators were showing. But I'm going to assume they probably would have agreed with what I'm saying right now. Yeah. Yeah, give or take. Yeah, everything was definitely in agreement there. At least it looks like it at a glance. And when I say indicators, I mean like MACD and stuff like that. So, momentum type of indicators. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what you do. Like this big trend line was kind of your big trend, right? If you notice, when we started to cross through it down here is when we started to break the trend. And we actually started to break the trend. And we did because what you can see here is we started this trend. Right now, did we completely reverse? Well, I guess that's to be seen, right? We haven't pulled through this yet, and we really haven't gone and actually started to push. So we shall see. But you can also do this, with other trend lines, right? You start to build trend line here, and you look what happens. Boom, you hit that, you hit this. Like on the basic levels of trading, this trend line here is what's going to save you. right? There's a lot of other things that it takes to do that, but you know, if that stock is going to continue to move up, it is going to either barely pull through that and you'll get a wick through it and it'll turn around, or it's just going to pull, right? So these are the things you have to look for on days like today. You know, drawing levels of support and all those things like that, it's, to me, it's a very important part of how I trade. And so, you know, trend lines are one of those things that give you, you know, it gives you an idea if something pulls through, or you know, you have a support or resistance. Like, it really starts to give you confirmation of those things. And it's because if you have a trend line and you have support and resistance, and you have, you know, everybody can give you 26 reasons usually why something stops, you know, on a move up or down. And a lot of times that's good. And that's good because if you only have one or two things that are stopping a stock somewhere, it's not a strong area of support and resistance. But if you have a lot of things, you know, like a pattern completion, and then, you know, previous resistance that, you know, hit multiple times, all these different things, like that's what you want for something to start to, you know, create those wicks and turn around, right? That's the kind of stuff you want to start looking for. Now, I haven't done it, but I'm sure if I were to look back, there would be reasons for some of these things, but you know, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to look at what we're looking at here. And then again, on the downside, you know, draw another one, you know, just draw another trend line. Look at what happens here. Draw it here, comes up, touches, comes down, comes up, touches, comes down, comes up, tries to break through, but can't hold it. Right. So, I mean, it's a good trending day of trading. And so where I tend to get out of trades is I scale out. So I do my particular measurements and I get out at certain areas. But where I tend to close is going to be in some of these pulls here where it looks like it's actually going to start building a base and turning around. And I do that because, you know, I mean, I don't want to lose profit, and I would much rather keep my profit where I've got it than lose it. And so that's what I tend to do. So, and it's, you know, I'm learning something new every day, just like everybody else. But anyway, and yeah, right. These are just the basics, right? I'm not even getting into anything complicated or difficult, but these are the kinds of things that I look at from a very basic level before I start doing a lot of other things. Like during the day, I still draw trend lines. I still draw support and resistance. You know, I still do all of that stuff. So, yeah, I don't really see anything else to kind of talk through, but feel free to ask questions. Like, you know, give me questions in the comments. This is a pretty long video. It's probably the longest video I've made. You know, but feel free, ask me questions, comments, all of that fun stuff. You know, tell everybody you know, and I forgot to do this at the beginning, but you know, like, subscribe, and do all of those fun things. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to any questions or anything like that. But otherwise, you know, tomorrow's going to be a big day, so I'm looking forward to it, and I hope everybody is doing well. I hope everybody did well today, and yeah, I'll see you next time.